Sorry about that. So just taking a step back real quick. So when you just did a refi, you said on the, how many units was it? 16 unit?
16. Yeah. Yep.
So when you did a refi, you ended up buying out the other partners.
Bought out the other partners. They wanted out. So we bought them out, and it gives Ben and I, my primary partner and I, full control over the building, which is great. And like I said before, it was the terms is 2.99%, 5-year term, 25-year amortization, 400 grand more in debt, $400 a month less in payment, which is amazing. But yeah, we took over that asset, and yeah, partnerships are great, but it was a lesson, I think, for both us and who we bought out. Like, make sure you are fully aligned on what you're going to be doing when you go into a deal. So
yeah, absolutely. So tell me about where did you guys diverge on what you and your partner saw as the way you should go versus obviously they were willing to cash out. They were ready to take their money and go, their profits and go, so to speak. And by the way, what was the time frame for return on investment? Just out of curiosity.
18 months.
How long?
18 months.
Okay, so about a year and a half. So under the 2-year threshold. So quick money. They made their nut back. They were happy, but they wanted out. But why did they want out exactly? I'm just curious.
Well, per them, they wanted to buy. They wanted to invest on a larger deal that they had, kind of in the works with some people. I think they're part of like the old Capital Mastermind, their crew. So they had a deal there that they were trying to kind of put their money into. But yeah, and this maybe, but there was also, I think, a part of it, like my partner and I, Ben and I, were of the mindset of passive. So we brought in a management company. We felt like that was the best way to go. Our partners, though, that we just bought out, were of the mindset of like, need to be hands-on, very hands-on. In other words, to the extent of our maintenance person for the building was one of the partners. So like our manager calls that guy and he goes and does it, which look, for me and my partner, it saved us a bunch of money because he's doing it. But that's just like, that's where I think the vision diverged. So I'll give you a quick example. They did the unit turns, like physically did the unit turns, our partners. And when I went in one time to help them out, just like, I felt bad, help them out. And they spent like a bunch of time on one wall, like there were like a lot of little pinholes and they were sanding it down and sanding it, painting it, sanding it. And it was just like, just slap paint. That my mindset is slap paint on there, turn this damn thing and move. They took a lot of pride in the product that they put out. And for me, that doesn't quite work on this B- asset, C+ asset in a B
you weren't
neighborhood.
going to get the return on investment for the time they were over improving the property.
Correct. Now at a low cost because the labor was them, like, so it kept the cost down. But in my opinion, it was not necessary to go that far. So that's kind of where I think the divergence was. Like, I think they were very, very hands-on, very technical. My partner, Ben, and I are like, get in, get rents to where they need to be, kind of slap paint on it, move on. And I think that's, sorry about the dog.
No, listen, that's a very good point. Like, listen, I own property management. I mean, this is what I recommend to my investors. In fact, I'm picking up a new client. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
I'm picking up a new client and he wrote to me today, yeah, I still haven't called the roofer, but I guess that's why I need property management. I'm like, yeah, leverage is exactly it. So just to give you a brief understanding of why I wanted to reach out also is I am like you that way. I'm very passive. I'm all about leverage. I want the systems in place. And I don't like unrealistic returns. If my partners are in there doing the work, there's still a time value to that. And like you said, the handyman or whoever was doing maintenance was one of the investors. Well, the problem with that is, sometimes there's that imbalance of like, well, I'm doing all this and you're not having to do as much. And I think that can subconsciously create negative tension. I'm like, no, we want to run this like a board. So go back about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when all this process started for my partners and I to create BWD Capital Partners. We had talked to some hedge fund guys and we said, look, this is what it was a hedge fund attorney. I'm like, what we want to do is we want to create a fund. So I'm thinking about kind of like what you're talking about, where it's like, we want passive investors who put money in the fund. And if we succeed, great. If we fail, obviously they're going to tell everyone we failed. So we're putting our names on the line. But from that, he's like, well, look, that's a very dangerous space. Now you're talking about managing people's money. You got to have your shit together. You can't just half-ass this. And so we kind of started down the road of like, well, should we go syndicate? Because originally the idea was we would take funds and we would syndicate the syndicators. In other words, we would come to a guy like you and say, Jamie, we got $250,000 here from 5 investors. We're willing to put 100,000 of that into, what do you got?
Yep.
and then hedge it. So I'm working on like 3 different syndicators, so you're balanced in case one deal doesn't necessarily work out.
Makes sense.
That was
Yes.
the original plan. And then, we got caught up in the syndication. Should we do more? Went out to Dallas for the Michael Blank conference. And finally what happened was I was like, shit, this is not my core personality. Like, I don't want to do what Jamie's doing and what Phil is doing. Like, that was never my plan in the beginning. My plan was to find the Jamies and the Phils and leverage them. You're leveraging yours. I want to leverage you. We all win.
Yep.
So I was curious when you just said that you've been doing more of a fund style. It's been typically like a small fund. Like, how have you found I think we can find money. My question is, was it just a couple of people or did you do a larger fund?
So the fund is not funded; it's just set up. But
Okay.
yeah, the capital commitments that we have are all from the Multifamily and More brand. So you've probably seen some of, like, Anthony runs the Hampton Roads Multifamily and More. Well, I started Multifamily and More in Michigan, and now we've kind of, for lack of a better phrase, syndicated that out. 21 chapters, 10,000 members, all of that stuff. So like that platform and the monthly stuff we do. Like, I have Jay Scott coming on in next week. Actually, I got to put that out there. Jay Scott doing a Q&A, like that platform every month, having a call like that, a webinar. I get registration. I have all the email addresses. I have my list. That has allowed me to network enough with people where they say, hey, look, I've got an IRA, I've got some money, this, that, and the other. If you ever have a deal, let me know. Like, so that's where we kind of have our list of investors from is that. So that's how I've been able to, essentially raise at least capital commitments from people of, when you get a deal, let's go. So we've got, I don't know, $3-4 million worth of commitments. How much of that actually comes through on our first syndication, we'll see.
Right.
But we have that network that we can leverage to raise is essentially
Okay.
the deal.
Do you guys have a Philadelphia chapter?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Hmm.
There was somebody we were talking to about it, but no, not yet.
Interesting. We might have to talk more about that.
Sure.
So Jamie, tell me about how has COVID been affecting your rents? Are you primarily in nothing less than like a C? Is C minus like the lowest of your properties?
Yeah, but I'm a bit all over the place. So I have this property in Michigan. Rents have actually been going up. That's not a problem there. It's it's outside of Ann Arbor. It's a great market, and we're solid on rents. 100% occupancy. Nothing, no issues. Cleveland, I'm in a deal with Tal, who's in M1, and that property, same thing. He's been able to fill the units, increase rents after he's done the rehab and everything else. Before I moved to Michigan, I'm from New York originally and lived in Boston for a while. My wife and I bought 2 duplexes in a college town in upstate New York, which are, I mean, to give you an idea, our debt between the 2 of them is, our mortgage payments are like $900 or $1,000 a month. And the average rents are $900 per door. So like, it's a ridiculous cash flow market, not an appreciation market at all. You buy cheap, you can force appreciation, you buy a shitty enough property. And we did that and then refied out and we're all good. But that market has been impacted by COVID because college was sent home. Everything that supports college is not working, right? Like, restaurants and bars and all that, those people are not working. And we don't rent to college students. So all the college housing is now available at a cheap price. So the waiters and waitresses and people like that rent my stuff, non-college, can't afford my stuff. So they go to the college housing to fill those
massive
vacancies.
housing shift.
Correct. So we had 2 vacancies. One filled at a little bit less than what the rent we were expecting to get based on if COVID didn't happen. The other one we're rehabbing because it had a sewer line backup. So we just replaced the sewer line and now we're rehabbing the unit because the bathroom got destroyed. So there's an insurance claim for that. But that unit that we're rehabbing, we thought before we'd get $1,300, and we're probably going to get close to $1,000, $1,100 for that unit now. So we've seen, 10, 15, 20% reduction in rent in that market because if you're relying on colleges, and they're all back. So hopefully the college actually did come back physically.
I think they're really back. Yeah, I mean, it's funny you should say that because like for years when we would talk to investors, I would always talk about the big 3. Hospitals, universities, major hubs of transportation. And quite frankly, the only one I really thought was kind of bulletproof was the universities. I really didn't think, I don't think anyone really foresaw a pandemic type situation where, okay, people are not going out.
Right.
I guess Zoom has allowed that to exist, right? Or teleconference.
Yeah.
We've been in the same situation. We manage about 200 units, everything from single family homes, townhomes, condos, up to small 20, 30 unit apartment buildings. And we've said the same thing. We've been in about a 95% collection. I should say we're close to 100%. Most months we've had maybe one or two that I've been dealing. In fact, I think three, and that's actually pretty good. Out of close to 200 units, we've had three that we had to file eviction on. One really was supposed to be taken out pre-COVID, but the owner rents to the guy's mother, the woman's mother, in another unit. So it's like, oh, I don't want to lose both. They were pissed the mom off, and she hasn't paid since January. But I don't have it. Like I've been doing property management as a side business. Well, I started off as a side hustle back in 08, 09. It turned into a full-time business right around 2012. So we're almost at 8 years of having a full management company. And over the years, like I got out of anything that was D, like anything D plus. I mean, I've got some C minuses still, but I got rid of like bad locations and D properties. Like they're just too much work, I think, in the end. And I don't know, is there any management number that actually makes them worth it? Or does it just get to a point where it's so high, it's not even worth trying to?
I think we've stayed away from D. I mean, it's tempting, when you see like the price of property and the per door cost and all that, it's tempting, but it's just
tempting.
Yeah.
But you get what you pay for. And I think Michael Blank, whatever his name is, I think it was him or some guy had speak. He's like, I'm standing there, and he goes, and I'm using a screwdriver to dig a bullet out of the drywall. I'm thinking to myself, what am I doing in this building again?
Right. It's true. It's true.
So, real quick, and then I'll let you go because this has been very interesting. What are you doing right now, like for finding your properties? Do you have are people coming to you now, or are you still out hustling more to find deals?
Mostly we kind of get what we get. Like we take what we get from others, and we haven't been as aggressive on that. We've been sort of pivoting toward the brand, the multifamily more brand, and what that's going to do and all that stuff. And I've got some other things that I have going on outside of that, but yeah, the deals we've had, the two that we've closed on in the last year and a half, were both brought to us by members of our network. So we sort of relied on that, and we get some, hey, take a look at this one, take a look at that one. Most of them don't work, but we could definitely step up efforts around marketing, whether it's mailers or just getting out with, like, some brokers send me stuff that are in our network. But, I might look at a few a month. It's not a lot right now.
Are you shifting more to the syndication of your comp? Like is the like a bigger pockets? Is that what you're starting to think? Like, is your
funny? Yeah. We are talking through, like, mastermind education course, that sort of stuff within multifamily work, because people are asking for it, and we put a lot of stuff out there, like on our YouTube channel or whatever.
It's ultimate leverage.
That's right.
Yeah.
But we have, I think we've been talking about, and we've designed a product, if you will, for folks that are looking to get more information, like, kind of at the level that we're at, which is not where Phil is, but, not new either. So help people with that. And then the other part, I'm partnering up with Gobundance to help them build a mastermind as well. That's sort of sub the $1 million level. So
that's right. You're in Gobundance now, right?
Yeah. So that's another project that I'm working on. So
I apologize, Jamie. Were you in M1 or you went straight to Gobundance?
No, M1. I started there and went to Gobundance after about 9 months.
Should I be in it? I'm starting to wonder if I should join Gobundance. It's not been a tough year. It's just been a lot of change. I'm in a new house. We got new employees, new car. Like, everything has changed so much in the last 6 months because of COVID. I'm like, am I even the same person anymore?
Yeah, no.
Have you enjoyed being in Gobundance?
100%, man. It's been life changing. It's being the ugliest house on the block is always a good thing, right? You've got upside. So I'm around all these beautiful homes. Like, my pod alone, like, I don't make 7 figures a year. They do. So being around these guys and listening to what they do and how they do or whatever, it just makes it normal. So the pod alone has been incredible because these guys are all ballers. But just the content, like the other night, it was Rob O'Neill, like the guy who killed bin Laden, and just learning lessons from him, through a Zoom call was incredible. And some of the other authors and some of the people in their network are amazing. I went out to Breckenridge for the event in last month in August, about 3 weeks ago. And just there, like, learning about small business acquisition and some of what is seen to be coming post-COVID as the next opportunity, like businesses that were trading at 8, 10, 12 multiples are going to be trading at 1, 2, or are already trading at 1, 2 multiples. And how can you buy and integrate into what you're doing? So you're a property manager. You should be looking for maybe an HVAC company. You should be looking for
It's funny.
a
It's
plumber.
so funny you should say that. Or maybe it is time for you to make that to me. But yeah, so right now we have, so the property management business is what I started growing. And then that got me into M1 because I was like just coasting after 3 years of being in business. I'm like, okay, like the money was like, I do work hard, but I don't work like I probably should. A lot of what I have is just momentum and passive income on the management side.
Sure.
And then I guess it was about a little bit more than 2.5 years ago, I was at a New Year's party, and the guy who sold me my first house was there, who was a Remax guy. One of his friends who had been an 18-year agent, she was there. And then one of my buddies whose house it was, Jay Niblick, who owns Wise Hire and Intermetrics, the company that does those disc profiles on Tony Robbins' website. And for what the hell is the guy's name? David Ramsey, all those guys who do it. That's my partner's company.
Very cool.
So we're at his house, right? And it's a long story, like long but great story about how we randomly met up. But I'm at this guy's house, and I'm like, there's enough Remax agents here for me to start a brokerage.
Sure.
And because I formerly was Remax till I shot off to the big realty management company. And so we decided to form a partnership, and we bought the license and we started building it up, but it took longer than I thought. And it wasn't my partner's fault. So Jay was the silent partner. Rich was supposed to be my active partner, but I didn't realize like he didn't have the mindset of business ownership. And that's a whole different mindset than being a great 25-year agent.
Sure.
So we struggled for about 18 months because we just didn't quite see eye to eye what growth meant and how we got there. And then I've been courting Seth Lejeune for years, and he's a part of his family owns a country club, a golf course. So, here's this guy I've been courting. So he finally comes over, and between him and 2 other partners, I sold a 30% stake in the business and had them come on as partners. And now, like, we're starting to rock and roll. So we just bought into a piece of a title company, which eventually we will own. Yep. So we got management, we've got residential, we've got title, we're adding a commercial division. Obviously, I can help with multifamily, but what we want to do is obviously work with investors. Mm-hmm. But I want to like be the guy that puts them together, because I think it's just a lot better leverage to put people together than to get out and do that legwork myself. But in all this, I've been sitting here for the last month going, what else can I buy? I got some extra cash. You know what I mean? And I was thinking HVAC, or is it painting, or I've been really big into this.
The opportunity was clearly laid out around just where people are, baby boomer age, ready to walk away. Their kids don't want to take it over, and you can buy these businesses for almost no money down. Put an operator in place. You don't want to operate it, so but you have the apprentice that's working there that has some business sense. Do a 6-month apprenticeship after acquisition with the current owner. That's the agreement. You stay on for 6 months, train this guy, and then he's your partner. He gets 50%, you get 50%, and you get to integrate that into your business, but this guy gets a piece of a business as well.
That's what we're looking at for commercial and residential. My vision originally was I would fly into like Michigan, and I would just start hammering like all the guys doing 20 to 40 deals a year and saying, look, you're a realtor. I don't care what brand you're with. Have you ever wanted to be an owner without having to be an operator? Yeah. We set it all up. We'll build the system, put everything in place, run everything on the back end. And look, you continue doing it, recruiting and selling, and bringing more partners on. In the end, we own a 30% stake in the business.
Yeah,
that was the vision, was to pop those all over the place. And I think we're still going to be working on a goal similar to that, but just like things have a tendency sometimes to take a little longer than you expect.
That's true. That's very true.
Who the hell saw COVID coming?
I know. It's crazy. Crazy.
But anyway, listen, as far as for your podcast or for an interview, like, to me, property management is a very misunderstood arm of the multifamily business. Yep. It is often seen as an expense, and I see it as an investment.
Yeah, 100%.
And that would be something, if you wanted to do like if we could do something, I'd love to share that, like where my investors who have, where investors end up in 10, 20 years when they see you as an investment versus when they see you as a pure expense.
Makes sense.
And how those guys get. I don't know if that's something that would be of interest to your listeners, but
yeah. Yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let me think about this for a second because we have that's the Michigan branch only. So we have a sponsor that's a property manager, but it's for Michigan only, not for the whole brand. So what I have, we do two things. We do a monthly webinar and we do something called an expert series, like a 20, 30-minute interview on a specific topic, property management being one of those. Let me look at my calendar. I'll send you some dates, and let's set up a time to do that. I can interview you, and we can put you out on our expert series. And
yeah, it's really not for trying to push business. It was I want to be able to link back to say I've been here, share this, and who I'm connected with. It's the same thing, right? It's cross marketing. But yeah, it wasn't to try to. I'm nowhere near Michigan. And
no. But we're talking more the YouTube channel, which is intended for the national brand. So.
Yeah, I don't have to. I'm happy to promote myself and not my brand. I'm okay with that too.
No, it doesn't matter to me. We're fine. So I'll set that. I'll send you some dates after we get. I just got to look at my calendar and we'll see what works. Sweet. Hey, real quick question for you: did you learn of Gobundance through M1 or M1 because of Gobundance?
So do you have are you up against
go for
time?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So here's how the story goes, and I'll give you the synopsis so I won't drag this out. I was running property management. I got invited to an investment seminar to speak on stage about property management. I met a young man named Rob Colwell of Rentwell.
Got it.
He was in a thing called Gobundance. I saw him as the competition. I was jealous and envious of the fact that he looked way more successful. I saw stuff on Facebook about Gobundance, and I'm like, who the fuck are these people? And fuck them. And, I was in a very bad place. And then right around 43, I finally had an epiphany that I realized that things were never going to make me happy. And maybe, just maybe, I was the cause of all my own problems.
Sure, yeah.
And it was a huge awakening. And I ran into a guy named Sean Lowry. And we had coffee a couple of times. And I saw he had his Gobundance journal. And at that point, I was finally in an emotional place to be open, to learn. I said, Sean, tell me a little about this Gobundance thing. And he told me what it was and, how it had been beneficial and, what it did. And he said, and then he called me. We had a Friday 8 a.m. call. We were talking and I was like, I said, look, I'm looking for some change in my life. He goes, what are you doing tomorrow morning? I go, nothing. Why? He goes, do you want to come down to Temple and volunteer? I was like, sure, why not? I had no idea what he was talking about. He said, be there at like 6 a.m. That means I had to get up like 4:30 in the morning to be down in Philadelphia.
Yeah, sure.
But I walk in and it was a One Life Fully Lived event. Didn't know that, didn't do any research. I just was like, fuck it, I'm going to show up and we'll see what happens. And all of a sudden, people are coming in and they're starting to talk to each other. And then all of a sudden, more people are coming in over the hour in the morning and they're hugging each other and high five. And I'm like, wait a minute, these people are flying from other countries. They act like they really know each other. I mean, Rebecca was there and Rock and Colleen. There's so many people there from M1, and I didn't know this at the time. And then the day starts, and I met Hal Elrod. It was a much younger, quieter Hal Elrod. He was still getting to get known. But the long story short of it is, I was like, I don't know what this is, but I like what I'm seeing, and I want this. I want to feel like it's okay to want more and not to settle. And so I called Sean. I said, Sean, yeah, I want to do this. He goes, okay. And then Rock, they scheduled my call with Rock on Wednesday. I think it was like 5 minutes in. And I was like, Rock, I made a decision. I'm doing this on Saturday. Yeah. So let's just cut to the chase. And I joined. I went up to Montreal that September. So from June, I went up to Montreal in September. I zip lined. It was an amazing experience. I came back, and then 2 months later, I broke my leg.
Jesus, man. And
that knocked me out for 6 months, but I made it to Cabo in the spring, which was the most phenomenal, like, as far as going on a personal development trip. Like, I would do that any day of the week and stand in a crowd of 15,000 at Tony Robbins anywhere in the world. I don't care if it's in fucking Fiji.
Yeah.
And I told Rock that when I saw him in LA at Tony Robbins. I said, no, this is not for me. I'd rather spend twice as much money and sit in a living room with a guy like you and be part of something of 50, 60 people. Then there's no connection to me in 15. It's just too much. Too much noise, too much distraction. And I got tinnitus to begin with. So anyway, yeah, and I did that, and then that just to kind of wrap it to understand like how it changed my life. So I got fucked up in November. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. I missed all the praise because of my broken leg.
Yeah.
And I was in Houston with an Airbnb event from M1. And I told my buddy that we would, you know, if he could get tickets, I would go to the London game, the two couples, to see the Eagles play at Wembley Stadium.
Yeah.
So at 5:30 in the morning, he's like, the tickets are all I can get. It's like they're sold out, sold out. They sold out in like 4 minutes. He's like, all we have is Diamond Club. And I was like, fuck it, it's $1,000 a ticket. It's bucket list. Why not?
Why not?
And so we flew to London and saw the Eagles play there. And then that was a phenomenal trip. And I met Loanne at the Montreal event, and she had emigrated, or she went back to Vietnam. And a bunch of us were on Facebook and said, hey, you know what? Why don't we go to Vietnam? And we planned it. And last September, almost a year ago, I did a 10-day trip with 3 M1ers through 4 different cities in Vietnam.
So what, I'm curious. So I'm assuming probably like me, when you found Gobundance, you weren't quite qualified for it yet. So you went the M1 route. That's what my thing was. I wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly, my net worth was probably around 300, 400,000 for the management business.
Yeah.
Since I joined M1 and I leveraged the value of the Remax, now it's worth about $600,000. Like, it's all paper money. It's not real.
Same.
It's all,
Same.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, my net worth is somewhere right around $1 million between it. Like between you and me, so yeah, I bought in. Jay let me buy into Wise Hire shares pre-IPO.
Okay.
It'll be years before they go IPO, but they just got named an Inc. 5000 company. So I'm like, maybe that's a little Microsoft seed that'll pay off something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so I'm curious why you asked about, should you join Gobundance? With what you just described, why wouldn't you?
I think for me, because I'd spent a lot of money with that, not that it wasn't a good investment, but it was more expensive to join Gobundance. And after seeing like the Tokyo trip, I was like, well, shit, it's $13,000. I haven't gotten on a plane yet. Yeah. So it more came down to, okay, I just settled my lawsuit. I got a chunk of change. Where am I better spent? And I know that Gobundance is an investment, don't get me wrong. But it's like right now in the interim of short term, am I better off leveraging that money to create money to pay for Gobundance, or then put that money in Gobundance and be out of a chunk of cash that now, how do I go find it from someone else? So I wasn't in the right place mindset wise. I think a year ago when you guys joined, I just wasn't there mentally. My concern at the time was they were opening up Gobundance to a lower, I don't want to say lower crowd, but a lower net worth crowd. And I told Phil, I don't want to be in another pod with 5 guys like us who are all like climbing up out of that getting over that 7-figure hump.
Yeah, they've kept it at 7 figures. What I'm building is the lower net worth crew. Like, it's a different mastermind altogether. That's what I'm partnering up on them with. Essentially like an M1, honestly.
Are they in conflict? Is there an issue going on? Like,
no issue, but they're not technically associated anymore. So I think they bought each other out of like, hey, I want to kind of do my thing, and Gobundance has its own vision.
I'll sell my Gobundance shares, you sell me back my M1 shares, and we'll go
that kind of thing.
And there's enough room, sure.
Sure. So but Gobundance has been very interested in having a development program. So that's what they commissioned me to do. So I'm actually literally in the middle of working on that. I just created the first leg of it and am starting to sell admission to it. It's a kind of like a 90-day program, and then it goes into the mastermind all below Gobundance.
Here was my only, not issue. I'm saying like it makes sense. You're making $1 million, or you have a net worth of $1 million or more. You're in a different threshold. The difference between 1 million and 5 million, the difference between 5 million and 25 million is huge. Between 1 and 5 is not life altering in that sense. You get to a certain point where, unless you're buying yachts, it doesn't really make sense. And I'd rather lease than buy anything. But my thing with M1, and I've kind of, I don't want to say fallen off, but it lost, because I'm going to be 48 tomorrow.
Oh,
and don't get me wrong, there are people in there, but it's like when I start like yapping, I shouldn't say yapping, when I'm on a call, with a guy who's like 49 or 52 and he has no money put away. I'm like, dude, that was me 10 years ago mentally. And you're right, each one reach one, and each one teach one. But like as far as a pod goes, there's too much in that 20 to 32-year-old. And it was great for me. Like Phil was perfect. He and I spoke like 45 days straight. I had to get my shit together. He really had to get his shit together. So we kind of grew together.
Yeah.
Then I was like, okay, that's really, I don't really want to go below that. So to me, it was almost like, hey, if you've got a net worth of $500,000 to $1 million, that would be a pod I'd rather be in than where anyone under half, because it's not beneficial at this point for me.
But that's exactly what, so, you know, I'm 41, I'll be 42 next month. And similarly, like you get to a point, yeah, you know, we're in our 40s, you get to a point in age where it's like, I being in a pod, and I was at one point with like a 21 and a 23-year-old who were like, what do I do? How do I, and I love it. I love helping them. I love helping them. Like you said, like, you know, throw the rope down, but at the same time, like I have to put myself in a position to be where the rope is being thrown down. And that's why GoBundance has been powerful for me. I can do both. Like and that's what's cool. Like it was intimidating at first listening to like, yeah, I'm an orthopedic surgeon. One of the guys, Dr. Jeremy Mathis in my pod, orthopedic surgeon. I make, 1.2 a year, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, fuck, man, what am I doing in this room? But then when you hear about like his relationship, like with his wife and everything, and I'm like, man, I can help him. That's where I throw the rope down. And these guys are, when you're in a GoBundance M1 pod, it's about hitting that million. When you're in a GoBundance pod, yes, there's financial discussion, but these guys are more like, look, I want to be, more well-balanced in life. Like, let's talk about that. Let's do that. Right. Yes. We've definitely talked finance. We just had a gold call the other day and all that stuff, but
it's not the primary. And I knew that and then right. I think it was a GoBundance guy that we had. He might've been a GoBundance guy on M1. He might've been an M1 guy. I can't remember. This was way back in the beginning. And it was exactly right. The guy was telling a story of how he was like, look, I'm making $400,000 a year. I'm like living my life. I'm in this giant house. He goes, and then all of a sudden I realized I haven't tucked my 3-year-old in bed in 6 months.
Right.
And that was like, not for me, because I'm the exact opposite. And I don't use it as an excuse, but I see when my idea when I grew up, I never saw my father in first and second grade because he was running through Connecticut to New York for climbing the ladder at CVS. And then when I was 15, he got terminated from CVS. And those two things impacted me. I was like, one, I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I can't see my kids.
Yeah. And
two, I'll never put myself in a situation where someone else can determine my fate. So there were two very life-altering things that happened to me and created who I am. So seeing my kids every morning and being there every afternoon, like that was a life goal I wasn't going to forgo. And that's all there was to it. And did it cost me money? And is that an excuse? Yeah, but I've told myself and my wife for 20 years, we got the rest of our lives to make money for a sec. I'm like, these years with my kids, my son turned 17 in March. My twins just turned 13 yesterday. In fact, my son is closer to 18. He's on his way to 18. And it's like, this time goes by so fast. So why not enjoy it? But I hear you. There's a lot of people out there that are so money driven that they're not seeing the other balance. And that's, to me, like I need help in certain things that may not be pure financial. But at the same point, I agree with you. My biggest thing is right now, I'm living in a 4,500 square foot home that I'm house hacking for $2,000 a month. We just had the couches delivered for the theater room down there. The person's losing their home. They were one of our clients. We managed it for $3,800 a month in rent. We can't do a short sale because of her finances, because of the bank. There's 2 liens. So I said to her, hey, how about I make you a deal? I'll pay you a couple G's a month. You'll have someone taking care of the property. It's going to go into foreclosure anyway. You've got no income during COVID. So she and her husband jumped at it. So I'm like walking around this 4,500 square foot home and I'm thinking to myself, I'm such a fucking failure because I don't own my own home. Isn't that weird how you get that? And so for me, but it's because we wanted to buy a house this year, but the market's been so nuts. We don't want to get caught up in the 08 issue.
Yeah.
But my point for all that is I need to start surrounding myself with high net worth people because I see them as an enemy for some reason. I don't know why.
Go online right now, brother.
Yeah.
Sign up. It's as simple as, look, you don't have to do these trips. Like I think it's $7,000 for the year. Maybe it's a little more, 7,200 for the year or whatever. Yeah. I've gone on the 2 local masterminds, but they had a trip to Cuba for like 18,000 a couple. I was like, all right. Like you said, my net worth is in assets. It's not, I have some cash, but it's not that cash where I'm like,
Right,
18.
right. We're not
Right. Yeah.
bleeding
Right.
money left and right.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
hear you.
But just the value of the pod for me has been well worth the price of admission. So yeah, I mean, if that's where you are, where you're at this point of needing to up your network, it is still $1 million mastermind. It's not, they're not lowering that standard.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad. I actually am very glad to hear that, because that was my point. It was like, look, I'm not asking. It's just like, I get it. I read Tribe of Millionaires, and I knew they weren't going to give them that money at the end of the book, because I'm like, that would defeat the whole purpose. The point is not to have someone solve your problems, that then you learn nothing. But my idea is so we've been talking to some high net worth people lately, and I'm like, and I find myself like getting antagonized by it. And what I finally realized, like, I had to take a step back, and I'm like, Chris, I'm like, why don't you start psychologically listening to what you're hearing here? I'm like, these are people with massive insecurities sometimes that hide behind their money, because even that isn't enough for them to feel like. This one guy we were talking to, he inherited $200,000. He and his siblings each inherited $200,000 from their grandparents. He's set to inherit millions of dollars someday, and he turned that 200 to 600. And I was like, you can almost like just hear the way, like, even though he knows he's doing it, it's almost like, is it even enough? Because remember, those guys are comparing themselves to somebody who's got 10 times what they have.
Yeah, it's true.
So finally, I was like, stop looking at them as the enemy and start realizing they're just people too.
100%. That was my big, it took me probably the first year in Gobundance to accept that. Like, I was always like, I don't belong. Like, I'm not consciously, but kind of but as time went on, and I actually met my pod in person, and these are just, like you said, these are guys. In fact, they were talking about like, man, like, you came through M1, like, see, he's like, we're not complete projects. Like, something like M1 would be bad. Like, just because you hit a million threshold doesn't mean like, oh, I figured it out, I'm good, I'm ready to go. In fact, that was a point Osborne made in Breckenridge. It was a great line. He goes, like, what you're going to realize is that the skills and everything around you, like what you are to get to 5 million, is exactly what's going to prevent you. The same skills are going to prevent you from getting to 10 million. So you have to kill that ego. It's like he called it the death of the ego. Like, you need to just look at your network, look at what you did. And he's right. Like, to get to $1 million, I bootstrapped it. So did you. Like, mine's 401k mixed with some real estate, whatever, but it's me. Some people helping, but I could probably do that to 5 million. I could just let, values balloon, and my net worth could be 5 million. But there is a point at which I've got to say, okay, and these guys do, I need a full-time executive assistant. I need this, I need that, whatever it is, right? Like, I can't bootstrap my way from 5 to 10 or 10 to 20 or whatever the case would be. Like, it's got to be a different version of me to get to that level. You said it, like, to 5, 1, about the same, but 6 to 10, that's another guy. And then talking to guys that are 10 plus, and there's a segment called 7 to 8 on GoBundance where they interview a guy that went from 7 figures to 8 figures in net worth, and like, what are some of the things you did or whatever. And they're doing things on a different level. They're leveraging more. They look at the systems that are out there, like banks or whatever, as tools for them to use, as opposed to things that they need, if that makes sense. It's
absolutely,
just like
absolutely.
It's a different
I'm
mindset.
finally reaching that threshold right now, because I've got, I got $50,000 at low interest here. The banks lent me $50,000 at 1% for 5 years.
Crazy.
I got all this, all of a sudden, like, I have assets to be able to put to work. You know what I mean? And it's like, and I get it. So that was like, when you said that about like, okay, we're looking into buying other businesses, like, that's my next thing. Like, okay, what next? Like here, to give you an example, hold on.